Ken Uzatu is a worthless high school underachiever living a miserable life. However, one day his life changes when he gets transported into another realm alongside the popular kids. The episode begins with the popular kids walking through the school hallways and gossip spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Uzatu, our worthless average protagonist, sees himself as just another face in the crowd, longing for more excitement in his uninteresting life. Deep down inside, he too wishes to become a popular kid. Lucky for him, because he is the main character of this anime. Later on, caught in the rain without an umbrella, he briefly considers taking someone else's, but opts against it, fearing the consequences. Surprisingly, Suzune intervenes, insisting he doesn't get drenched, and Kazuki steps in, offering his spare umbrella, saving Uzatu from getting wet. During their walk, he expresses surprise at Kazuki's kindness, as he's only ever seen him surrounded by girls. Suddenly, a magic circle appears, and the dumb Uzatu approaches it, thinking it's a gateway to another world. Suzune, instead of being panicked, acts like a sociopath and anticipates encountering magical creatures. They're suddenly whisked away and face King Lloyd, shocking the boys. Lloyd reveals they were summoned as heroes to fight a demon lord. Kazuki, being the arrogant punk like he is, protests being summoned without consent, but they can't return home. Despite his objections, the king shows zero self-respect for himself, apologizes and begs for their help. His advisor, Welsi, explains the hero summoning selects accomplished individuals signaled by hearing bells. Later, during their magic testing, Suzune shows an affinity for thunder magic, while Kazuki exhibits light magic. On the other hand, Uzatu wishes to become a useful guy for once, and luckily, his crystal turns green, signaling something ominous. Before Welsi can explain, the king orders Uzatu's removal from the castle. Suddenly, a sizzling woman named Rose barges in, demanding answers. Despite the king's attempts to cover up, she takes Uzatu, intending to train him in healing magic against his will. Later, at her base, he meets her intimidating subordinates, fearing for his life. Rose, however, insists they'll care for him, but Uzatu doubts their kindness. As she decides to start Uzatu's training, he struggles to comprehend the nightmare he's entered. The poor guy desperately wishes for another teacher, but Rose strictly tells him the training starts tomorrow. Uzatu wakes up wishing it was all a dream, but reality hits him hard as realizes he's truly in another world. A little bit later, Suzune and Kazuki visit, concerned about his abduction. Despite his PTSD from the previous day, he musters up the courage to go through with the training. Suzune also explains they'll start their training too, and they both wish each other the best. Miss Rose, out of generosity, gives Uzatu a journal to record his daily training. Training begins with mana sensing and language reading. She explains the close proximity of demon territory and orders Uzatu to study. The first day seems manageable, but day 2 includes intense running. By day 3, Uzatu collapses from exhaustion, but is healed by Rose, who pushes him to continue. Falling behind on day 4 earns him ridicule from others. Days 5 and 6 involve more running, fueling Uzatu's anger, until he unexpectedly manifests healing magic on day 7. He realizes the significance of healing magic as he continues training. By day 10, Uzatu's newfound ability to manifest healing magic on command reduces his fatigue. He starts doubting if his training is going to help him further or not, but Rose's intimidating nature makes him afraid of asking. She introduces push-ups on day 11, explaining their training for battlefield rescues. On day 12, Uzatu's training extends until nightfall, with relentless running and push-ups. Day 13 sees Rose adding weights to challenge Uzatu further. However, on day 14, tensions rise when Uzatu's lunch goes missing, leading to a confrontation with one of the trainees. Despite the setback, he shows progress as he adapts to the rigorous training regimen. A week later, Uzatu's friends visit and are astonished by his transformation. He has totally become a shredded guy. He impresses Rose with his determination, enduring intense push-ups even with her on his back. She recognizes Uzatu's potential and anticipates reaching their goal sooner than expected. Suzune's jaw drops at Uzatu's newfound strength, while Kazuki acknowledges the brutality of the training. Rose emphasizes that she's grooming Uzatu as her right-hand man. Due to his refusal to give up and ability to endure her training. Meanwhile, their friends go with a woman named Celia for a break, and Siglis, the commander of the kingdom's army, is reluctant to enlist Rose due to her impaired right eye. During lunch, Uzatu learns about Siglis's rule and realizes Celia is the princess, apologizing for his earlier casual behavior. They enjoy a pie while discussing Uzatu's intense training regimen. Kazuki and Suzune express concern about Uzatu's training, but he tries to play it cool and says he's determined to endure it to support them. They joke around before an argument with the meathead turns into a fight. Despite Celia's concern, Kazuki reassures her, knowing it's a common occurrence for Uzatu. As Uzatu reflects on his changed physique and mental strength during his bath, he contemplates his role in battlefield rescue. The next morning, Rose announces they'll venture outside, causing concern among the others. They arrive at the infamous darkness of Linger Forest, where Rose instructs Uzatu to hunt down a grand grizzly. Uzatu protests, citing his lack of combat experience, but Rose gives no explanation, launching him towards the forest, leaving him in a panic as he plunges. As Uzatu falls towards the ground, he summons his healing magic to brace for impact, miraculously surviving the fall. Determined to fulfill Rose's task, he decides to stop being a wimp and tries to maintain a positive attitude. However, when he encounters the Grand Grizzly, he realizes the frightening challenge ahead. Uzatu's temporary heroism vanishes, and he flees from the bear to find shelter near a waterfall. Using his pea-sized brain, Uzatu quickly uses this opportunity to heal himself. With only basic supplies provided by Rose, he rants about the lack of tools for survival. As night falls, he rests in a makeshift shelter, grateful for having survived the first day. The next morning, Uzatu begins his hunt, scouting for clues about the Grand Grizzly's habitat. He encounters a peculiar monster that resembles a wounded bunny and heals it before continuing his search. Surprisingly, the bunny begins to follow him, leading him towards the bears. As he observes the bears from a distance, Uzatu starts to empathize with them, considering their familial bonds. Despite the challenges of survival, he finds solace in the company of his newfound bunny friend. However, his contentment is short-lived when he falls ill from contaminated water. Fortunately, with the bunny's guidance, he discovers clean water sources, marking a small victory in his struggle for survival. Later, Uzatu is startled by the appearance of a giant snake, unlike anything he's encountered before. Despite its absence from his reference book, he senses its malevolent intent and resolves to avoid it at all costs. Days pass with Uzatu unable to shake off this unease. Despite his reluctance, he decides to confront the Grand Grizzly the next day. When Uzatu finally ventures out, he discovers the bear slaughtered by the snake, their lives taken senselessly. Witnessing the cubs' anguish, Uzatu vows to avenge their deaths. Meanwhile, his friends grow concerned about his prolonged absence. They speculate about Rose's intentions, but remain hopeful for Uzatu's safe return. In the forest, Uzatu prepares to face the snake, fueled by determination and armed with a makeshift spear. Guided by the bunny, he finally confronts the serpent, which is attacking the cub. Despite the snake's terrifying appearance, Uzatu remains resolute, knowing that his resolve surpasses his fear. In a daring move, he blinds the snake in one eye, but is wounded in the process. In immense pain and shock from being outsmarted by the snake, Uzatu realizes that his arm, which the snake bit, was holding his knife. With a burst of determination, he heals his arm enough to move and stabs the snake from inside its mouth. Despite the unfairness of the fight, with the snake being both massive and venomous, Uzatu's ability to heal himself gives him an advantage. He reflects on how being poisoned by the water forced him to learn self-healing, a skill he now employs. Just as the snake is about to deliver a fatal blow, the little cub intervenes, showcasing remarkable teamwork with Uzatu. Together, they manage to defeat the snake, but Uzatu is left incapacitated from neutralizing the venom in his body. As the snake rises again, ready to strike, Uzatu's thoughts turn to Rose, who he blames for the ordeal. To his surprise, Rose arrives and dispatches the snake, revealing that she was alerted by her pet rabbit, Kakuru. Despite feeling deceived by Kakuru's apparent injury, Uzatu acknowledges Rose's strategic approach. Rose explains that the snake was a creation of the Demon Lord's army, and she intended for Uzatu to gain experience fighting a formidable opponent. Despite his near-death experience, Uzatu realizes that he has passed Rose's test and is now qualified to stand alongside her on the battlefield. Rose praises his resilience and mental fortitude, emphasizing his readiness for the impending battle against the Demon Lord's army. As they head back, Uzatu reflects on the terrifying yet impressive nature of Rose, who reveals that the Demon Lord's army will soon attack. Elsewhere, the Demon Lord wonders how preparations are going for the invasion of the Linger Kingdom Amila. The commander of the Third Army reports that their units have finished preparing for battle, and they will soon advance. The Demon Lord entrusts Amila with leading the army, despite previous setbacks in capturing the Linger Kingdom. She pledges to give her best efforts in the upcoming battle, determined to secure victory. However, she's mocked by the demon doctor Hyruluk for her nervousness in front of the Demon Lord. Amila despises Hyruluk and urges him to focus on his work. Afterwards, he unveils his latest creation, the demon-made monster Prototype 72 Belginak, boasting his heightened venom and formidable physique. This new prototype aims to surpass the previous version, which fled during the last attack after sustaining injuries from Siglis. Amila acknowledges the need for a stronger monster, especially with the presence of formidable opponents like Siglis in the Linger Kingdom. She plans to deploy the Black Knight, an immortal mage of darkness, to confront Rose. Meanwhile, Uzatu finally relishes the comfort of a bed after enduring days of grueling training and battling in the forest. As Uzatu feeds Blurin and interacts with the traitorous Kakuru, Rose arrives, mocking Uzatu's choice of name for the bear. She informs them that Blurin has been allowed to stay in the kingdom, but will need to earn his keep. Uzatu wonders what tasks Rose has in mind for Blurin, and soon finds out as he is assigned to carry Blurin as part of simulation training. Rose instructs Uzatu to think of Blurin as someone needing rescue, and they begin running. Despite the added weight, Uzatu finds the task manageable as long as he manages his mana properly. Rose, still dissatisfied with Uzatu, urges him to run faster, emphasizing the urgency of rescuing the wounded on the battlefield. Suddenly, Tong and another meathead appear, chasing Uzatu as part of the simulation. As hours pass, he starts to feel strange, questioning what is happening to him amidst the intense training. He finally collapses from exhaustion and the cold. Miss Rose explains that humans on the battlefield often experience fatigue due to nervousness. She emphasizes the need for mental fortitude and decisiveness in such situations. After healing Uzatu, she continues his torture, instructing him to spend the rest of the afternoon running around the castle town with Blurin. As they run, the sight of a blue bear on Uzatu's back shocks the townspeople. He expected this reaction, knowing that even though Blurin is friendly, he is still perceived as a monster. However, he learns from a merchant that the townspeople are calm because they recognize Uzatu as a member of the rescue team, accustomed to seeing intimidating figures from the team. Later, Uzatu encounters a girl named Amaku, who shows interest in him. He decides to visit his friends, but is initially oblivious when another man tries to get his attention. This man, Orga, reveals himself as one of the healers from the rescue team. He explains that he and his younger sister run a clinic in the city, using their healing magic to aid the citizens. Orga admires Uzatu's ability to keep up with Rose's rigorous training, noting that it was impossible for him and his sister. Orga acknowledges Rose's shortcomings with people, but also expresses relief that she has found someone she trusts. He leaves, confident that Uzatu will be a valuable addition to the team. At the castle, Uzatu is allowed entry with Blurin thanks to Rose's endorsement. He encounters Suzune, who is curious about the blue bear on his back. Uzatu recounts his adventure in the forest, but Suzune is more interested in befriending Blurin. However, the bear coldly rejects her attempts, amusing Uzatu. Despite his efforts to explain Blurin's behavior, Suzune ends up getting injured from the encounter. To compensate, Uzatu heals her wounds, impressing her with his ability. She reveals that Kozuki has gone outside the kingdom with Siglis to gain experience fighting monsters. Meanwhile, Siglis informs Kazuki about the impending attack by the Demon Lord, boosting troop morale with the hero's presence. However, Kazuki harbors doubts, though he resolves to do his best. As they encounter monsters, Kazuki prepares for battle, while Suzune gears up for her turn to gain experience. After Uzatu leaves, Suzune reflects on their interaction, noting his growing comfort with her. She wonders if he realizes how much he has come to trust her, despite his seemingly casual demeanor. Uzatu then continues his training and reflects on his useless past, because now he can do things he couldn't in his old world. He realizes he's not a worthless weakling anymore. That night, he talks to Rose about his fears regarding the upcoming war, admitting his terror after barely surviving the encounter with the snake monster. However, he also expresses a newfound determination to fight without taking lives, vowing to save as many people as possible as part of the rescue team. She is pleased with his resolve, emphasizing the importance of their mission to save lives. The next morning, Rose informs Uzatu that the king has requested his presence to join Suzune's training outside the castle. Uzatu is surprised but ready, while Suzune, for some weird reason, is quite excited for the training. Uzatu joins Suzune, Iruko the knight, and Korin the mage for training outside the castle. As they train, Korin detects multiple entities ahead, and Naruka warns them to be cautious. Bandits emerge and attempt to ambush them, demanding their goods. Naruka refuses, but the bandits, realizing they outnumber the group, press on. Uzatu finds the bandits unimpressive and assures Suzune they're not a threat, adding a bit of riz to the alarming situation. The bandits, noticing Blurin, cruelly decide to catch and skin him alive, causing Suzune to defend him fiercely. Impressed by her power, Uzatu encourages her to use her magic freely. As the bandits close in, he guides her in using her magic like a Pokemon, leading to their defeat. Their victory is short-lived as a horde of boars arrive, driving them toward a river. Uzatu takes a hit protecting Suzune, and they tumble into the river, with Suzune left injured. As they recover by the river, Suzune is relieved to see Uzatu waking up, having feared the worst when he blacked out. He heals her injuries, but they end up sharing an embarrassing moment. Uzatu tries to add humor and claims that he wouldn't want to be stranded with anyone else but Suzune. Realizing they're in a dangerous forest with limited supplies, they discuss their options. Suzune suggests prioritizing escape, but Uzatu points out the impending darkness and the possibility of rain. They decide to find shelter for the night, settling on a cave. Suzune hesitates to change out of her wet clothes, but eventually agrees, with Uzatu promising not to peek. Suzune uses her lightning ability to catch fish and start a fire. They settle into an awkward silence, with her lusting over Uzatu's physique. Suddenly, venom monkeys appear, and despite his warnings, she pets one and gets bitten. She collapses from the venom's effect. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Korin's familiar informs the king of Suzune and Uzatu's disappearance. The king initially decides not to inform Kazuki, but Celia insists. Kazuki decides to search for them himself, but Rose intercepts him, assuring him that Uzatu, as her subordinate, won't die so easily. In the forest, Uzatu finds himself enjoying Suzune's company, though she doesn't appreciate being compared to camping equipment. As they discuss their feelings and aspirations, she admits that she has no desire to return to their old world, feeling liberated and happy in their current one. Uzatu shares her sentiment, having grown tired of his useless former self and now committed to protecting Kazuki and the kingdom as a member of the rescue squad. They make a pact to embrace their new lives and protect their current world, leaving behind their past. After their heartfelt conversation, they settle down to sleep, and in the morning, they encounter Blurin, who has found them. Blurin's presence prompts them to realize it's time to leave the forest and return home. He shares Blurin's tragic backstory with Naruka, who sympathizes with the little cub. They all agree it's time to leave the forest and return to where they belong. Uzatu's chilly attitude surprises Kazuki, who is deeply concerned for their safety. In the castle, the interrogation of the bandits reveals alarming information about the behavior of monsters in the forest. Minister Sergio's report suggests that the monsters are fleeing from something, indicating the possible advance of the Demon Lord's army. Siglis predicted that the impending attack will be more formidable than before, as the Demon Lord is unlikely to underestimate them again. The king requests Rose's assistance in gathering intelligence on the Demon Lord's army. However, he also asks her to return to her previous role as battalion commander, a position she refuses due to her feelings of guilt and responsibility for the deaths of her subordinates. Rose's scar serves as a constant reminder of her perceived failures, and she created the rescue squad as a means to focus on saving lives rather than engaging in combat. Despite the king's reassurances, Rose remains steadfast in her belief that she must find a subordinate who will not die, viewing it as her ultimate goal. The king acknowledges the difficulty of such a task, but highlights the importance of the rescue squad's training in preparing them for the challenges ahead. Her admiration for Uzatu's potential as the ideal healer is evident in her letter to him, where she acknowledges his survival instincts, adaptability, and determination. She sees in him qualities similar to those who are no longer with them, motivating her to groom him into the healer she envisions. Meanwhile, Emila's determination to serve the Demon Lord is evident as she oversees the construction of a bridge for their invasion of the Linger Kingdom. Despite the Black Knight's annoyance at her enthusiasm, he begrudgingly agrees to follow her orders. However, their plans are disrupted when Rose intervenes, destroying the bridge with a powerful attack. She is furious at the interference and underestimates the significance of Rose's actions, unaware of the scout's true identity. Rose's survey mission turns into a strategic move to delay the demon army's advance, buying precious time for the Linger Kingdom to prepare for their defense. Meanwhile, Uzatu's visit to the clinic brings him face-to-face with Orga and Ururu, siblings who were once part of the rescue squad but couldn't keep up with Rose's inhuman training. Uzatu observes Orga's impressive healing magic and smooth technique, contrasting it with his own abilities. Despite Uzatu's jaded view of Rose, Orga and Ururu speak fondly of her efforts to train them, even though they ultimately couldn't meet her expectations. When a patient falls off a roof, Uzatu joins Orga to assist in healing the injured. This experience makes Uzatu realize the gravity of the injuries he may face in wartime and the necessity of remaining calm in such situations. Orga's words of encouragement help Uzatu regain his confidence, reminding him of Rose's belief in his abilities. With renewed determination, Uzatu successfully heals the injured patient, solidifying his resolve to fulfill his role as a healer. Later on, his encounter with the mysterious girl leaves him shaken as he tries to comprehend the horrifying visions she showed him. His heart races with fear and confusion, especially at the sight of his friends being killed by the Dark Knight. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, he chases after the girl, desperate to understand the meaning behind the visions and how he can change the course of events. Uzatu listens intently as Kazuki opens up about his fears and doubts regarding the upcoming battle with the Demon Lord's army. He sympathizes with Kazuki's anxiety, understanding the weight of the responsibility they carry as heroes tasked with protecting their kingdom. Uzatu also reflects on his own insecurities and uncertainties, especially after the disturbing vision he experienced earlier. Despite his own fears, he finds himself trying to offer reassurance to Kazuki, reminding him of their training and the strength they've gained along the way. As they continue their conversation, he shares his encounter with the mysterious fox girl and the unsettling vision she showed him. He admits his struggle to reconcile the possibility of altering the future with the sense of powerlessness he feels in the face of such overwhelming circumstances. Kazuki listens attentively, offering the support and understanding to Uzatu in return. Together, they comfort in each other's company, finding strength in their shared determination to confront the challenges ahead. Kazuki realizes that he doesn't have to bear the weight of the world alone, and that his friendship with Uzatu is a source of immense comfort and strength. Kazuki finally finds resolve and declares to fight alongside Uzatu and Suzune. Uzatu, however, feels like he's said some creep things, but to Kazuki, those words are exactly what he needed to hear to find the courage to fight. As Uzatu braces himself for a potentially torturous encounter with Rose, he's surprised to find that she simply wants to have a conversation. Meanwhile, preparations for the impending battle are underway, with the king rallying the troops and instilling confidence in their ability to emerge victorious against the Demon Lord's army. Kazuki takes a moment to visit Celia, promising to return safely and reassuring her of his determination to protect both her and their country. On the other hand, Rose's instruction shed light on Uzatu's role on the battlefield, emphasizing the importance of discernment in healing and cautioning against reckless self-sacrifice. He gains a deeper understanding of his responsibilities and the significance of his own life, realizing that he must prioritize saving both himself and others. Despite the seriousness of their conversation, Uzatu feels a renewed sense of determination to fulfill his duties as a member of the rescue squad, vowing to protect his comrades, including Kazuki and Suzune, at all costs. As Rose reflects on her past as the battalion commander of the Linger Knights, she recalls a time when the kingdom received reports of demon sightings near the grasslands bordering the darkness of Linger. Concerned about a potential invasion, both Rose and Siglis prepared their troops for any possible threat. However, Rose's attention is diverted by Aul, a girl who seems to lack seriousness about the situation. Rose scolds Aul for her behavior, emphasizing the importance of taking the demon threat seriously and never underestimating the enemy. However, Aul's reluctance earns her the fury of her fellow knights, who blame her for the intense training regimen imposed by Rose. Rose listens to Aul's concerns and explains that her strength and determination are precisely why she chose her as a deputy commander. Despite Aul's past rebellious behavior, she recognized her potential and believed that under her guidance, Aul could become a great leader. Aul's willingness to push herself and her determination to always do her best were qualities that Rose admired and saw as essential for a future leader. Aul is taken aback by Rose's words, realizing that perhaps her stubbornness and strength weren't just obstacles, but qualities that could be harnessed for good. As Rose assures Aul of her faith in her abilities, Aul begins to see herself in a new light, recognizing that her past mistakes do not define her future potential. With Rose's support and mentorship, Aul feels a newfound sense of purpose that one day she'll become leader in her own right. Later on, Rose's intense battle with Nero showcases her formidable combat skills and her strategic prowess. Despite Nero's powerful wind-based abilities, her speed, strength, and healing magic allow her to hold her own against him. As the battle rages on, Rose's relentless assault leaves Nero astonished by her abilities, recognizing her as a formidable enemy. Rose's refusal to yield and her unwavering resolve to protect her comrades drive her forward, inspiring her fellow knights and earning Nero's begrudging respect. With her incredible speed and strength, coupled with her healing magic, she proves herself to be a formidable fighter, capable of holding her own against even the most powerful adversaries. As the battle intensifies, Rose's determination to emerge victorious remains unwavering, setting the stage for an epic confrontation between her and Nero. How Uzatu and Rose will be able to defeat the Demon King? Find out in the next episode. And if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for more plot-filled recaps.